So you created your world and loaded in. The sun is shining as a peaceful soundtrack kicks in. You take a deep breath, exhale, and think to yourself, I want to play the best class in the world. So after setting up a small base, cranking up the difficulty to Master Mode and flicking on Infernum, never mind, I guess you have to crank it down to Expert Mode. Gonna miss having that extra accessory slot. Anyway, you now mentally prepare yourself for all the prep work that you're gonna have to do before any bosses. First of all, the Wolfram Purge. Simply dig a hole with some walking room, crank up the spawn rates, and let the squirrel staff slay all the robots that tried to attack you. After acquiring the Rover Drive and Wolfram Battery, you head back home. Then with all the shards, you craft some Wolfram Armor and a Wolfram Controller for your first real summon. Now equipped with some gear, you dive underground to collect some boots, gems, life crystals, and a double jump. That last one we won't be keeping for very long, but it'll help out with this next task, setting up your pylons across the world. Those bases will receive a touch-up later, but for now, let us get a sentry. Sentries have their own summoning slots, so it's just more damage. For your choice, you'll be diving into the sulfurous sea for some rusty chests to find the rusty beacon prototype. The squirrel staff also does well with its good range, but come on, we're doing like a whole robot theme here, so it just fits better. Moving on to our next task, we'll be upgrading our movement. Summoner ain't known for its damage, but rather excels at dodging, as you don't need to focus on anything else, really. So now let's ascend upwards to acquire some fledgling wings from the floating islands. A rare drop, but one that we'll need moving forward. In order to acquire these wings, you utilize some world hopping to find a pair. Along the way, you collect some other various loot that could help you. You can also find these wings from sky crates via fishing, which is what you end up doing since the other method has been 3 hours of nothing. And to help you out with the fishing grind, you decide to take on some fishing quests for the various fishing boosts that the angler can give you. After finally getting a pair of wings, you make some standard potions, a snapthorn, and you're ready to start bosses. Did you know that Calamity actually adds a crafting recipe for the fledgling wings? Isn't that cool? Oh boy, I'm so glad I knew that before I spent 5 hours trying to get these. Whatever, let's just move on. You set up a massive and elaborate arena in the desert sky, which will later branch into the jungle. And now, after 7 total hours of prep, you can start your first Infernum boss against the Desert Scourge. Second boss. Anyway, the general game plan for bosses is quite simple. You whip and weave until you get hit too much. Then you stop looking at the boss and focus entirely on yourself. This method of, let's call it tunnel vision dodging, makes it much easier to dodge attacks, as you're not focusing on as much, but it can sometimes come back to bite you. This method proved to be unnecessary during the Desert Scourge boss because it goes down pretty easily. Let's keep this ball rolling and take on the King Slime next. Due to the King's Jewel hovering just outside of whip range, you simply position your sentry so that it can damage it. It's not too overwhelming, but it does make it so the summons are spending less time attacking the boss. Still, with early game wings and some good jumping, it gets popped eventually, even if it did take a few tries. Now on to the big one. The big old eye that haunts the merchant's dreams. The Eye of Cthulhu. This fight showcases the might of whips quite well, as it easily tears through all the spawned minions as your Wolfram drones target the boss. And after an oddly easy fight compared to the King Slime, you defeat the Eye and have cleared up a few of the first bosses. Alright, well done, Summoner. Methinks it's time to call up Builder's Code to have your houses remodeled. And as she works, it's time for some upgrades. First of all, some movement increase. These wings are great, but they don't fly for nearly long enough. So let's take down the Goblin Invasion and snag a pair of rocket boots. Now to simply combine up a few accessories and get the Frostspark boots. And while we could make a Elevator to get to the underworld to start farming the goods that we need for the lava waders, the demon conch that we got from the fishing quests means that we can just skip all of that. So with a quick raising of the conch, you're whisked away into the underworld to start farming. It's maybe a little bit messed up that the angler gave you an item that would just send you to hell, but whatever. After a bit of fishing and an accidental summoning of the Wall of Flesh, you get the items and craft them all up into some Terraspark boots. Now your wings last way longer and your legs move way faster. Now let's just rapid fire these last upgrades. 1. The Spirit Glyph for some added summon buffs, 2. The Feral Claws for some added whip DPS, 3. The Volcanic Jelly, which can give you an extra summoning slot and a chance for them to inflict the Electrified debuff, and 4. Some last few potion buffs. And would you look at that, the houses are done! How neat! Too bad that we won't be enjoying them just yet, as we're moving on to the next boss on our list, the Brain of Cthulhu. With the lack of spawned minions to do damage, you and your summons can focus all your damage on the boss, leading to a quick arrival of the second phase. This phase proves more difficult than expected, and takes quite a few tries to actually beat. But given how tough it was, I think it's time that you finally switch out these summons. After all, these Wolfram drones ain't looking too good after all this wear and tear.
I am sorry, Father.
Shh, hush, little one. Don't worry, Papa will give you the rest you deserve very soon. That's right, these drones will only need to fight one more battle before they can retire. So it's off to the jungle to create an underground arena for the Queen Bee fight. This will double as an eventual Plantera arena, but for now, let's load up on some sticky dynamite and get blasting. After clearing away a sizable chunk and making the arena, you summon the Queen Bee. This fight proves rather difficult as your summons lag behind the Queen's erratic movements, meaning that they only get a shot or two off before untargeting. And due to the smaller size of your arena, perfectly adequate size of your arena, the projectile attack that bounces around makes the fight a little cramped. This whole fight takes a few attempts, but in the end, you defeat it and take the treasure bag back home. You equip the Hive Pack, craft some bee armor, and acquire your new summon, the Hornet's Staff. And instead of me rattling on about what they do, let's let them tell us.
Well, howdy there, folks. They call us the Hornet Posse. We're a gang of sharpshooting, rootin'-tootin', stinger-launching hornets who can fire off attacks at long range with great speed.
I'd tip my hat to you if I didn't just change it out. Regardless, pleased to meet ya.
Likewise.
Now that introductions are out of the way, let's get back to boss slaying. First up, a boss that I totally didn't skip because I wanted an unfair advantage against it later, Crabulon! Finally making use of those big meaty claws, but it still isn't enough to beat you. And to continue with the tradition of boss skipping, let's go to the dungeon and fight Skeletron. With all that Infernum changed, it's a whole new fight, containing almost none of the original Walk in the Park boss fight. Thankfully, the game gives you a Skeletron summoner, so you can keep the attempts rolling. Even with constant use of tunnel vision dodging, this spam-heavy boss fight proves to be the toughest yet. But there's no tricks or gimmicks here, folks. Simply time to get good. You stop your jumping and hopping around and focus on some much more precise movements and rely on the Hornet Posse to slay the boss. Don't give me phase 2. Now you dive into the dungeon to grab a bewitching table and collect some bones for the spinal tap. Oh, and the mechanic. I almost forgot about her. Moving on, something that you did note from that Skeletron fight was that your wings aren't quite the movement boon that they once were. So let's get ourselves a new pair. To do so, you have to fight the Perforators and the Crimson. This Crimson regional variant of the Eater of Worlds can be pretty tough to fight. That is, of course, if you didn't have a weapon that pierces through all segments and has really good attack speed. Yeah, the whip makes short work of the worms, and the posse can clean up the floating fella, meaning that you can unlock the aerialite ore in the floating islets. Collecting some and turning them into ingots grants you some new wings that'll help you soar alongside your summons. Flight of the Bumblebees? Nah, this is Flight of the Hornets. God, that's so stupid. Now you just need a few final items before your next fight. First of all, is stop by r/Terraria's favorite NPC at night for the Pygmy Necklace. Now it's time to switch out this rusty beacon sentry that we already stopped using a while ago. Off to the ice biome to fight Deerclops. The main gimmick for the boss gets nullified by some good movement, aka just dancing right above its head, meaning that you can achieve a clean kill. From the treasure bag, you pull out the Houndius Shootius, a neat little ranged sentry that'll help deal some additional damage in this next battle. The Slime God. This one's a tough battle, requiring you to use the full extent of your arena. Well, okay, maybe not the full arena, but it certainly did pay off making one this big. As usual, the summons are really good at sniping the boss as you run around, and the sentry helps out a little bit as well. Thankfully, your damage is so high at this point that these huge hitboxes just get torn through thoroughly. Keep dodging over the course of the whole fight, and victory is yours. Now, with all the other pre-hard mode bosses defeated, one second. Okay, now with that last boss out of the way for the sticklers, you only have one final fight left. Now, how to proceed with that?
Oh, have you considered using some obsidian armor or whip to solo it?
What? No, that's stupid. Who would do something like that?
Oh, well, I just thought that could be fun.
Okay, well, it wouldn't be. After that awful idea,
Awful's a bit harsh.
you decide to simply upgrade your Wolfram battery to a jelly-charged battery, and it's off to the underworld to start making room for this final battle. Sure, you have the Terraspark boots, but we're gonna need a little bit more room for dodging, so after some quick demo work and a lot of platforms later, you're ready to finally face off this terrifying pillar of rotting meat. You grab a voodoo doll and drop it into the pit below, summoning the monster that holds shut the gates to hard mode. And it was kind of easy? Seriously, you spent more time building the bridge than you did fighting it. I don't even have enough footage to montage to. I guess I'll just do my usual spiel then? As the wall of flesh crumbles into the fiery lake below, the souls have become free and your world has entered hard mode. You head to your now crimsoned arena to finish off your pre-hard mode trophy wall. After eating the demon heart, you steel yourself and prepare for the next adventure, and who am I kidding? You're obviously going to disappoint me as well. Yup, the Hornet posse wants me to help them rob a train, so I gotta go do that. Bye!